And ladies and gentlemen, coming to you from the basement of executive producer Kevin McGrath's house in Minneapolis, Minnesota, this is the Ben Jacks Baseball Podcast with your host, Ben Jacks. Tonight, Sunday night, July 10th, 2016, we will be talking about the first half of the Major League Baseball season, as well as introducing a new guest on the show, my fraternity brother, Matthew Bergstrom.
Hey, what's up?
We're also bringing back on the mic executive producer Kevin McGrath.
Good evening.
And the man that needs no introduction. You already saw on Facebook that he'd be on. It is my fraternity brother, Derek Dahl.
Simply Derek Benjamin.
Oh!
All my fans travel well, as you can see.
They certainly do. Simply Derek. So, you were at Wimbledon. Were you at Wimbledon this last week, man?
Indeed, I was.
Shout out to Andy Murray
mentally
on winning today.
or physically is really neither here nor there.
Absolutely, it's not.
Indeed. So yes, Wimbledon. Congratulations, Andy Murray,
Straight sets
Serena
victory.
Williams, the American phenom,
Yes.
as you will.
And Andy Murray, obviously a Brit winning it all.
Yes.
Definitely means a lot to you guys, I know that.
Sure.
Who, guys?
He's all right. A little bit of a letdown. Should have won more.
Derek.
He's let the Queen down, which I don't particularly condone. If the Queen is president, you better win, and he has failed in that mission before. But
That's
yes,
true.
Andy, I love
That's
you.
very true.
If you're watching, let's play around sometime, shall we?
Absolutely, there you go. Derek Dahl communicating with Wimbledon champion.
What were we trying to talk about?
Nothing.
We were going to try to introduce Bergie on the show tonight, Kevin. That's what we were going to try to do.
Oh, hi, guys.
How you doing, man?
Right over here. Yeah.
Of all the guys that we've had on the show, I think other than Salverson, you're a type A baseball fan.
I do enjoy a good baseball game.
Absolutely.
My team's doing horribly, but
That's
Can you
okay.
describe what is a type A baseball fan?
A type A baseball fan that's their favorite sport. Maybe not their favorite sport, but they certainly follow it enough where you would consider them somebody who's really knowledgeable, really dedicated to rooting for his team.
Someone who would watch a whole baseball game.
Yeah.
Which,
So like someone
you know,
with
Which
no
is very
life,
difficult for the
basically.
average person
Well,
nowadays.
yeah, I mean, you have to have enjoyment and be like, really.
I mean,
Into it from
captivated
pitch to
by it.
pitch. Yeah.
occasionally I'll miss a half inning or so to grab some more beer, but
That's fine. I think we all do that from time to time. Yeah. No, that's certainly understandable, Bergie. So Bergie, you just mentioned that your favorite team isn't doing well, and if you'd like to inform our listeners who your favorite team is.
My favorite team in the Major League Baseball is the Minnesota Twins.
No way.
Well, that's
Yeah,
shocking. Is that
that's
like
pretty shocking.
because of some sort of weird connection when you were a child or something?
Is it because you're a twin?
I'm not a twin.
Oh.
I don't have any siblings that look
On
exactly
point,
like
Mr.
me.
McGrath.
But
Yes.
I did grow up in the
That's
state
like
of Minnesota, so
That's
Oh.
like the White Sox wearing question that Bus asked me in the last episode that I did with you guys.
Oh, God.
So you're a Sox fan, but do you like wear white sweat socks when you?
We humor
Forgive me
him
for saying that
too
was
much.
one of the most poignant questions that's
it
been
really
raised.
was. It really was. It was fantastic. So Bergie, growing up in Norman County East, up in Twin Valley, being a Twins fan, you're 2 years younger than me, so same generation, obviously. Who was your favorite player on those Twins teams in the as you were growing up? So this is like 90s, onward, I guess you could say.
Born in '89, I kind of missed out on the whole World Series
Yeah,
bonanza
yeah.
that we had going on there in '87 and '91.
Which my dad talked about extensively on the Father's Day episode. Yeah.
So, I mean, I have seen the footage and I idolize Kirby Puckett to a sense.
Yeah.
But my favorite player, and I'm wearing his jersey today, the Mr. Torrey Hunter.
Nice. Yeah, Russell mentioned Torrey Hunter as his favorite player too. And we had a little conversation about that to the extent of me saying that as a White Sox fan, I hated Torrey Hunter. I thought he was an absolute prick, but he was a great player. Like I said, he always brought like a level of fear in the opposition to the ballpark.
Fear
Like,
and enthusiasm.
Yeah,
he
you were-
was always there to
you
have
were
fun
just-
and play the game.
as a fan of a rival of the Twins, you're always afraid that when you come up to the plate, you get a big hit. Or if you hit the ball somewhere in the outfield, he was going to go get it. And it was going to ruin a rally for you on offense, and it was going to start something for them. That was always the fear of playing against a Torrey Hunter-led ball club.
I have a question for you guys. Do you know if Torrey Hunter is like a trash talker?
Yeah, he absolutely was.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that
He seems like he would be.
There was that element of his game where he would do that to opposing players. I think that was part of that generation. Like, he came at the tail end of like the Ricky Henderson generation of ball players, like the late '80s, early '90s guys that would really talk a lot of junk.
Cocky.
Yeah. Like, Torrey wasn't afraid to flip his bat if he hit a homer. There was a big home run late in the ball game. There were just things that he'd do that would get under your skin as a White Sox fan.
Yeah.
And he would do them repeatedly. That's because he was such a good player.
That's what I kind of remember about him. He just seemed like the kind of guy that would just do what it took to win.
Yeah.
All across the board,
Yeah, I always thought it was a shame that he never won a World Series because he was certainly that caliber player to be a starting center fielder on a World Championship team.
Yeah, he had talent out there. He always tracked down the ball, it seemed. Didn't matter about his bat half the time because he's making flashy plays with his glove, robbing people at the wall. Making a huge impact defensively.
Yep.
But he could also hit. So, yeah, we definitely enjoyed having him. I know the Angels enjoyed having him. And then it was great having him back.
At the very end, yeah. So, from your perspective as a Twins fan, your favorite baseball moment growing up, whether it has to do with the Twins or just baseball in general?
Probably just the run we had back in 2004. Just enjoying that season of the Twins because we had Johan, we had Francisco Liriano come up that year and light the league on fire.
Yeah.
And then, we had Torrey and...
Was that the year that Morneau won the MVP?
No, that was...
Or was that later? Okay. Because I know that Morneau and Maurer won MVPs. Hey, Kevin, you want to look that up?
Yeah.
See when Morneau and Maurer won their MVPs? Well, Justin Morneau, who will be in the lineup for the White Sox next Friday as a designated hitter. How about that?
Yeah, I mean...
That's going to be awesome. I can't wait to see that.
That is quite the comeback. Yeah, he's had a tough road ever since he kind of got that concussion. He's just been coming back from injury after injury. But last year he was trying to make a team and tore a rotator cuff or something.
Yeah, he tore his. I think it was it was a rotator or something in the shoulder, and he has been on the shelf the entire first half of the season. When the White Sox had the Adam Roche situation take place, after he retired or whatever you want to call it, they had their eye on Morneau as the replacement because it was like late in spring training. You don't have many options. So
yeah, I hope he comes back and plays well. He'll always be, one of my, I wouldn't say favorite players, but definitely someone that I look upon kindly and hope for the best for. Because he provided us some good years in Minnesota and just.
Oh man, he was tough. Yeah.
Okay, Justin Morneau MVP.
Yeah.
2006.
Oh, okay. There you go. Yeah. The year after the White Sox won the World Series when 3 teams in AL Central won 90-plus games. In today's playoff format, Detroit and Chicago would have played in that wild card playoff, and the Twins would have been the division winners. But instead, we missed the playoffs with 91 wins in the wild card era. I that's happened maybe 5 times since then. So, but yeah, in terms of now, being a Twins fan, you have the AL Central, and you guys have played the Yankees a bunch in the postseason, and the Oakland A's as well. In all of your years of watching Twins baseball, which team would you say you hate the most?
Definitely the Yankees.
Okay, that is for me, that's somewhat surprising, but at the same time, it's been like a consensus among you guys.
It's just it's just been so frustrating because it seems like every time we do happen to make the playoffs, we face the Yankees, and if we don't get swept, we only win 1 game. So it's been a thorn in our side all these years, but I wouldn't say I hate the White Sox, but I definitely enjoy the rivalry with them. So.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's been a lot of fun. Obviously, being up here, living up here, going to the U with you guys, and having that back and forth. It never really seemed to me like a real hatred. It just seemed like these 2 good teams at the time, really good teams, and I would beg to argue that other than Yankees Red Sox, what do you think of this, Bergie? I think that other than Yankees Red Sox, the Twins White Sox rivalry from 2001-ish to 2010 was the best rivalry in the American League.
It was definitely the most intriguing and definitely brought a lot of attention because, we had some intense battles going there, trying to either win the division or get a wild card spot or anything like that. So,
I mean, you're talking about between those two ball clubs, I believe you're talking about 8 division titles, 2 ALCS appearances, and a World Championship in that decade. I mean, that goes to show you right there. There's a lot of talent on the field, arguably Hall of Fame talent on both sides. Burley and Konerko with the White Sox, Frank Thomas earlier, and then guys like Torrey and Johan and Mauer with the Twins. Yeah,
it would just be nice for Mauer to kind of regain some of his old form. He showed, some promise of it this year, kind of reverting, but he's kind of struggled again as the season wears on. So
I mean, it's been tougher for him because obviously moving from catcher to first base, his bat doesn't quite have the same type of value because first base is such a power oriented position, and he's never been a big power guy. So I mean, that's been a difficult transition for him in that regard. But I mean, from 2004 when he came up until about 2010, he was as good as any hitter that I've ever seen in my lifetime.
Oh my gosh. Like, what has he got, 3 batting titles?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. I want to say 06, 09, and 10. He won the batting title 3 out of those 5-6 years there.
As a catcher, too? Like, how often has that happened?
Very rare. Very rare indeed. So, Bergie, nowadays with the Twins, I mean, I know they haven't been very good this year. Who would you say is your favorite player in the game right now? Twins or no Twins?
Twins or no Twins. I'd say a favorite player in baseball right now has got to be Mike Trout. Sure. I mean, he's just the epitome of what you want in a baseball player. He gives it all defensively. He can hit. I think he's a much better leader than Bryce Harper over in the National League.
Yeah.
He's kind of a diva, I would put it lightly, I guess.
That's fair.
Douchebag, if you want to get my true opinion.
That's fair.
But
my dad called somebody an asshole in the last episode, you can say what you got to say, man.
All right.
Cut it loose.
So yeah, he's always there for the MVP race. He's who you want on your team, and
yeah, for sure,
he's gonna get paid.
Yeah. Salverson and I talked about that in the previous episode.
Oh, by the way, Salverson is en route.
That's what I hear. Chris Salverson will be in the building in about 15 minutes, folks. Chris with the K. We'll be talking more analytics, more Oakland A's when he gets here.
Well, there's 2 Chris's with a K, though.
There's 2 Chris's with a K, and the other one could not join us tonight, Chris Jones, which would have been the true entertainment of tonight's episode. No offense to anybody here, but I was really looking forward to having Jonesy on.
I know.
Because he's a huge Yankee fan, and he's the life of the party wherever he goes. So
that is the truth.
Jonesy, we miss you, bro. We can't wait to have you on the show. We'll figure something out. We'll get something arranged. But back to your point, Bergie, about the Mike Trout being your favorite guy. The contract situation with him and the Angels is going to be interesting because their farm system sucks. The current team sucks, and they're not going to be good for a while because the contract situation, their payroll isn't really in a good spot. I'm curious to see what happens with are they going to move him if they can't win something if they can't get to like the ALCS or better by the time he's like 27, 28, like are they going to have to move him, do you think?
If they don't, he's going to get paid by somebody else.
That's true.
So I don't know. We'll have to see how it plays out.
Yeah. I think it'll be an interesting dynamic within the Angels organization the next couple of years. We'll see how that unfolds. And then the last question I wanted to ask you in the introduction here, because we asked the same questions to everybody when I introduced them on the show. Well, 2 of them, I guess. The first one being, this is a little tricky for you because you're so diehard Minnesota sports, diehard Twins. You're a Minnesota native. You've lived in the state your entire life. That being said, and I know this is going to be a difficult question for you. If you had a second favorite team underneath the Twins, who would that be?
For a long time, my second favorite team was Kansas City because they were, even though they're the same division, they're kind of like us, small, very small market team with, relying on their farm system to produce talent. Mm-hmm. But ever since they started also being large douchebags and wanting to fight everybody, I would say that my second favorite team nowadays has got to be, I don't even know.
St. Paul Saints.
Right?
Robbie Coe, pitcher.
They got that awesome new ballpark downtown St. Paul, Lower Town.
I can definitely appreciate, I like Manny Machado.
Yeah,
the Orioles are pretty
I love
good.
Manny Machado. Yeah, he's one of my favorite players in baseball. Breaking news, boys. Madison Bumgarner threw a one-hit shutout.
Oh.
He missed.
Hell yeah.
He missed the no-hitter by one hit. He must have given up a hit either in the 8th or 9th inning of the ball game. But yeah, I thought that I'd break that news to you guys. So you would say maybe the Orioles because of Manny Machado or something like that. Chris Davis, those guys.
Yeah, they're fun to watch. And
yeah, they hit a lot of bombs in that small-ass ballpark they play in. Yeah.
But I don't know. It's also fun to see someone else in the AL East,
Yeah, to
win.
do well. Yeah.
I mean, besides the top two teams, but
For sure. Speaking of the Royals, this is kind of a off the path question I wanted to ask you. Because they've been getting into a lot of fights lately and because of the way they act and Ned Yost being the influence that he is, negative influence, which Royal? I'm curious because I really dislike the Royals too as a White Sox fan because if you recall last year, Adam Eaton and Yordano Ventura got into it. Of all the Royals on that team that act in that certain type of way, which guy do you dislike the most in the Kansas City Royals?
it's got to be Ventura.
Yeah,
like, it's got to be.
Yeah, I guess
it seems
so.
like the only time they get in fights is when he's throwing at people.
Yeah, right.
Like what? The guy looked at you wrong when he got a hit and ran to first base. Like
when he tried to get into it with Trout last year.
oh
Did
my
you see
gosh.
that? Yeah.
Like I don't know. You can't just target a guy's best player for no reason because you think that's gonna help you win. Like
Exactly.
you gotta try and beat him
Yeah.
on the field, not like with your fists.
Exactly. It's ridiculous. Yeah, dude. And to kind of close this introductory piece out, the last question that we asked everybody was if you were a big league ball player, whether that was a pitcher coming out of the bullpen or walking up to the plate as a hitter, what would your walk-up song be?
Oh man, I don't know. I've had a slight obsession with some Big Sean lately.
Okay.
So probably some I don't fuck with you.
That would be good. Okay, I like that. I went with Blessings.
But, I mean,
that was my
I'm
choice.
probably not gonna play that in a
Yeah.
stadium full of people. So
I don't think
yeah.
so.
Yeah, that's okay.
That's why you play it, because I don't fuck with you.
I mean, that's been a big single on the
your own-
radio. They've played that. They've played the edited version on the radio, so you can get the edited version.
Just bring your own
guess.
boombox when you go up to bat.
there you go.
Right?
Little
On your
boost.
shoulder, old school.
I've played softball with guys that have brought boom boxes to the dugout and just had it playing during games.
That's
Yeah.
what we do.
Yeah, that's like,
We have music going all game.
yep, that's something that we do
Of
for
course,
sure.
we're in D League, so it doesn't matter.
There you go. Yeah, don't matter. Don't matter. All right, Bergie. Well, thank you for introducing yourself to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, for sure, man. You're now part of the conversation. And now with that, boys, we're going to go ahead and try to open this up into more of a panel. I know you guys aren't like huge on the game, but we're going to try to include everybody here. First off, let's start off with, let's go with the best teams in both leagues and kind of discuss who we really think are the top teams in both the American and National League, and maybe some of the teams that have disappointed us in the first half. Okay? So my list, I'm going to just start right now with my list. And I'm going to go with 3 in each league. You guys don't have to go with 3 in each league. You can go with 1 if you want.
I'll comment on yours.
Absolutely, Kevin.
I don't have 3 teams.
I'm going to look
You
up.
don't have to have 3
I
teams.
spend all my damn time editing this podcast. I don't have time to watch baseball.
Exactly.
I'm gonna
I know
Google-
everything you know.
Yes, there you go. I'm the talent. You're the producer. There, That's what it is, right?
I'm going to Google the word baseball and see
Okay.
what I can learn.
Thank you, Derek. Thank you. For me, the top 3 teams in each league. I'll start with the National. The team that I've taken a lot of flack on for being not critical of the team, not critical of the organization, but critical of the fan base. That's the Cubs. They are one of the best teams in baseball. They really are. And I never said otherwise. I just said that I thought the fans were acting a little annoying during the season, and the media hype has been kind of frustrating to listen to.
They think they've already won the World Series.
Yeah, and then they go out and they've dropped, I don't know what it is, like 11 out of 13 or 15 out of 20 or something. They got one of the worst records in baseball since about June 10th. But they're still winning the NL Central by 7.5 games. Doesn't appear that there's going to be anybody that's going to challenge them. I do think right now they're the third best team in the NL. I believe the records reflect that. And I think, I was talking to my dad about this today because he's kind of a converted Cubs fan from being a Twins fan after living in Chicago, for 30 years now. He thinks that the Cubs, and I agree with him, the Cubs are good enough to win the NL Central. That division isn't that great, and they have enough position player talent, enough offense to win that division, but they probably don't have the starting pitching to win a playoff series at this point.
I'd be surprised to see if they don't make a move here at the trade deadline
they're going to have
bolster their rotation. So.
Yeah, the rotation has definitely taken a step back. I mean, Lester's gotten hit pretty hard in the last 2 games. Jake Arrieta, since June 1st, hasn't pitched all that well. I think his ERA is mid-4s, 500 record. John Lackey's been kind of up and down, and then Kyle Hendricks and Jason Hamill at the back end of the rotation. Those guys aren't, reliable. I mean, they're decent for 4 and 5 guys, but I think they're going to need another guy in that rotation.
Could be interesting if they go after a guy like Irvin Santana, who has been playing better as of late.
As a Twins fan, who would you like in return for Irvin Santana? What do you guys think you can get if you're looking at the Cubs? Right
now, we're rebuilding, so we need more prospects. So I'm not super familiar with the Cubs farm system.
If you're talking about it, because I can probably I know enough about the Cubs system. If you're looking at a position that you like to upgrade at,
we're definitely in need of pitching too. So it'd be kind of a.
They got a guy in Double-A, I guess it's supposed to be. I forget what his name is, but he's supposed to be really, really good. So. Got a sub-2 ERA, 21 years old, something like that. That'd be a guy that they could look at, maybe.
We need to look at getting a first baseman who can hit some bombs and play every day.
So the Cubs do have an interesting guy at that position. His name is Dan Vogelbach. I believe he's in Triple-A Iowa now. And obviously, first base for the Cubs, you're never going to get a chance to play Anthony Rizzo.
Yeah, Anthony Rizzo's got that locked down.
I mean, Anthony Rizzo's the best first baseman. In my opinion, he's become the best first baseman in the National League, maybe in all of baseball. So at this point, there's no chance for Vogelbach to play, but he's got a good enough bat, and even if his defense isn't that great, he's playing in the American League. He might be able to DH some too.
Yep.
So, but yeah, the Cubs are one of the teams that I had picked. They're probably the third best team in the NL. And then I would say second best would be the Nationals. They have the starting pitching. They've got Bryce Harper. The only question I have is their bullpen good enough? Daniel Murphy's had a great year, too.
Mm-hmm. Daniel Murphy's just maintained his run since last year's playoffs.
Yeah.
Guy just went crazy last year.
Yep, they made kind of the Murphy's Bleachers joke about Wrigley because there's a bar beyond the center field fence, outside of the ballpark, called Murphy's Bleachers on I think that's Waveland and Sheffield. And obviously he was hitting a bunch of bombs into the bleachers at Wrigley during the NLCS, so they obviously made that joke a couple times on Chicago radio and TV. But I'll be curious to see how they add to whether or not they want another bat. I heard Josh Reddick's name get floated out there. Okay. I guess they're looking for another outfielder, and they're always looking. It seems like they're always looking for bullpen help. I know they got Papelbon, but he's super inconsistent, and he
might fight Bryce Harper.
He might try to choke Bryce Harper again. We don't know. So, yeah, that was definitely a question mark for them. We'll see what they're going to need to add, but I think they're definitely going to need to add something.
Yeah, I heard rumors earlier about Aroldis Chapman. They might be going after him.
Okay, I mean
there's a bunch of teams.
They have a number of high-level prospects, both position player and pitching wise, that they can deal off if they wanted to get a Chapman or a Reddick or whatever they're looking for. So
yeah, they're in win now mode. So.
Yeah, I mean the window is there to get to the World Series. They might as well go for it. And then the best team that I have in the NL is San Francisco. I think the Giants right now, they seem like they're back to even year Giant baseball with Bumgarner pitching the way he did. I know I broke it earlier on the podcast. They threw a one-hit shutout tonight. He carried a no into the eighth. I think by far, the way they've played basically since June 1st, they just look like the best team in baseball. So, I would go Giants 1, Nationals 2, and Cubs 3 at the break in the NL. What do you think, Bergie?
I don't know. I'd pretty much have to agree with you. Like, they're all running away with their divisions, it seems like. The Cardinals are kind of a disappointment this year. I thought they'd be a little better, but I thought they'd challenge a little bit more. They'll probably still end up with a wild card spot, maybe.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like, in terms of the wild card, probably looking at the Dodgers right now, I think, are the number one wild card in the National League. They're about 11 over. Kershaw just went in the DL though, so that's obviously that's a big hit to their rotation. But Corey Seager, man, talk about Rookie of the Year running away with it. I mean, I think he's got a chance not only to win the Rookie of the Year, but to steal some MVP votes too. He's had a great year.
I think Bryce Harper's locking that down, though.
You think so?
I think he's
well, we'll get into who I picked for the MVP in the next segment here, but I would definitely say, like, I think the Dodgers are probably maybe not quite a lock to win the wild card, but they're in a really good position right now to make a run at it. The Mets are probably the other team. The Mets or the Pirates, I would say. Those are probably the two teams that are going to battle it out for that second wild card.
Yeah, and Harvey just went on the DL again, so
he's out for the year. Yeah.
Oh, they announced.
Yeah, the Dodgers are up 2.5 games right now.
Okay, yeah, they're playing really well. I think they definitely with their bats starting to come around with Adrian Gonzalez. Adrian Gonzalez is like the classic slow starter. He had like 60 RBIs after the break last year to get to 100. It was like unbelievable. So I think that's going to be something to watch out for. Is like if Puig can stay healthy, if Trace Thompson continue to hit, and Adrian Gonzalez has a big second half, and Corey Seager continues to do what he's doing. They're going to be a tough team to beat. Yeah, for sure. And then on the American League side, I went with the Texas Rangers, number 1. Right after they got done getting their asses kicked by the Twins today, 15-5.
Twins have had their number.
They have
15 runs.
15 runs in a ball game.
That's a hell of a lot.
Yeah, that is a hell of a lot. Yeah.
Think about how many calories were burned running around those bases that many times. 15 times.
A lot of carbs burned.
Probably not that many calories.
Probably not. But like for a baseball player, probably quite a bit.
Probably not. Probably the same for most people.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, all right. I'll take my
have to do
away.
a ESPN sports science study on that.
Yes.
Maybe we want to get some real science to figure it out.
Just preferably Derek's biases. That's really the only informational source we need.
That's really all we need. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's what I need to hear.
One source.
You're a great friend, Benjamin. Many. All you need to do is tell me exactly what.
Well, thank you, Derek. I truly appreciate that. Yeah, I picked the Orioles as not the Orioles. I picked the Rangers as my top team, and then I went with Cleveland 2, and then Baltimore 3. I picked the Orioles 3rd. Those are the division leaders. Cleveland played really well for a long stretch. They struggled this week against the Yankees, but
they still probably got the best starting rotation in baseball right now.
Yeah. I mean, with Kluber at the top, Danny Salazar, Trevor Bauer, those guys really pitching well. Carlos Carrasco, that's a tough rotation to go up against. And not only do you have that, but then you have them bringing over Mike Napoli from Texas, and he's come out and hit the crap out of the ball this year. I kind of semi-laughed at that move when they made it in the offseason. I'm like, really? They're going to get Napoli? This guy's going to hit, 220 and strike out a bunch? And instead he's flipped the script on it, and he's hitting home runs, hitting clutch home runs, playing a decent first base. And I think, and obviously with the up the middle combination of Lindor and Kipnis, my guy Jason Kipnis, who I played high school baseball against.
Oh, geez.
Glenbrook North High School. He was all state and everything. With those two guys up the middle, that's a pretty tough team to beat too.
Yep.
I mean, would you say, Bergie, that you think that Cleveland right now might be the top team in the American League over
I would
Baltimore and Texas?
I would argue that. Just
Yeah.
They got a decent lineup, but their pitching is very good this year.
Yeah, they don't need to upgrade the rotation at all.
If they need to bolster their bullpen a little bit, maybe before the playoffs come, but
yeah,
I don't know. They probably just need to add maybe one more bat to their lineup.
I was gonna say, do you think if they added, say, if they got in on the Josh Reddick sweepstakes, do you think that would be something that would make more sense for them, or just try to get an arm, or both?
Because they play good defense and they got the arms, so yeah. You can never add more, or you can never have too many bats. So
yeah, it's true. I mean, especially in this generation where it's more of a pitching and defense oriented ball game. Looking to add another bat, especially a left-handed bat at the Jake, that would be something to look at. So progressive field, whatever, but still call it the Jake, man. That's what I still call it. So, yeah, those are my top 6 right now. I think those are certainly the better teams in baseball. And then in terms of individual awards at the break, let's see what I got. So first half MVP, Bergie, I went with Manny Machado in the AL.
Yep.
And I went with Kershaw in the National League as my MVP.
Hey, okay, he's been dominant, so I
not just
cannot argue with that at all. Hopefully he's not injured too long and makes a strong comeback here, but
sure,
he has been lights out all year long, and can't argue with that.
Yeah, he has. I mean, he's obviously I just read a little blip today that he might not be ready to come right back as soon as his time is up. He might have to make a rehab start, but hopefully it'll only be one, because he was on pace to do some pretty special stuff once again this year. Strikeout to walk ratio was absurd, like
crazy good.
Basically walking less than a guy per start at this point. I think that when you look at the way his game is developed, it's not just fastball, curveball anymore. He's got 3 or 4 dominant pitches. His command is excellent. He works fast. He fields his position. He does everything that you want. He elevates his team's play around him.
The only problem he has is he only plays every 5th day.
That's the problem. But when you're that
have
special,
him playing every day, you'd probably win 150 games.
Right? Yeah. That's the thing that makes him special, is that he's the most valuable player in his team, and he only is out there every 5th day.
Yep.
That's really incredible, I think. What do you think of Machado as my MVP for the first half?
I don't think there's much of an argument against it. He's batting 30 points over his career average. He's on pace for he's on pace to go over 100 RBIs for his team. His team's in first place in the AL East. And
let's add this to the equation. At the beginning of the year, Machado was playing the position he's played since he came up.
He's changed positions.
Third base, right? And he changed positions once J.J. Hardy got hurt. He moved to short, and he's become the best defensive shortstop in the American League. Is there anything this guy doesn't do well?
Apparently not.
He does everything well. I've never seen a guy, watching these White Sox games, especially with our staff with Sale and Quintana at the top, and watching Machado hit against us at Camden Yards, it was like he wore both those guys out, and he made every play in the field. It was like, this guy can beat you in so many different ways. It's like, how they don't even need that many good players around him to be competitive. But now they have a bunch of guys that can hit, with Trumbo and Chris Davis. So he's got protection, and he's putting up the numbers, hitting. I think he's hitting second in that lineup now.
Yeah, the Orioles are a scary team this year. I think they'll make the playoffs and do very well.
Yeah, I think so. I think they got to the ALCS 2 years ago, but Machado wasn't real. I think Machado and Davis weren't 100% healthy at that point. So now they've got basically their 2 best hitters back. and I think they've got a chance to be really, really competitive in the American League playoffs this year. I think they're going to be a very tough team to beat. And Machado, with the way he's been hitting, in my first podcast episode, I picked the Baltimore Orioles to finish in last place in the American League East.
Congratulations.
Thank you. That's the only one I really tanked in, because I picked the Indians to win the Central, and I picked the Rangers to finish second in the West. So that's not too bad. And then in the East, I picked in the NL, I picked the Nationals, Cubs, and Giants.
Yeah, we're gonna make you go back through that at the end of the season.
Yeah, I might go like 8 for 10 with my playoff predictions.
That would be really
pretty
nice.
decent chance.
That's pretty decent.
7 or 8 out of 10. I think I've got a pretty good shot at that. So, not to brag or anything, but
well, it's not done yet.
It's not done yet. This could totally get flipped. And hell, if the Sox made the playoffs, I'd be way happier with that than get my prediction right. So,
That's noble.
Yeah. Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate that.
That's selfish.
Yeah, right. So yeah, that was my pick, for NL MVP, AL MVP. I also picked Sale and Kershaw as my Cy Young Award winners.
Hey,
no-brainers there, pretty much.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
I don't think anyone's going to challenge those guys, so
That's fair. I think the Danny Salazar, he was pitching pretty well, but Sale with the 14 wins at the break. If he wins 25 games, that'll be the first time since Bob Welch in 1988 with the A's. So I think that would be kind of a no-brainer there.
Yep.
Let's see, Rookie of the Year. I have Corey Seager in the NL,
obviously.
And then I got Nomar Mazara from the Rangers, outfielder from the Rangers. He was American League Rookie of the Month in April and May. He's put up pretty good offensive numbers, and he's played like Gold Glove caliber defense in right field. So
Can't go wrong with that. Then.
yeah, I think that's a big part of why the Rangers
rookies I've been watching this year are nowhere close to that. So.
I mean, obviously in the second half, I'd love to see Tim Anderson continue to do what he's been doing. I had people laugh when Cubs fans laughed when they called him up because they thought it was a panic move because the Sox had released Jimmy Rollins to bring up Anderson because they thought they were bringing him up too early, and now he's hitting over 300 and he turned a triple play by himself on Friday night.
Yeah.
So he's played pretty well.
That's all right.
Yeah, he's played pretty well for a guy that they said wasn't going to walk enough and was going to play bad defense when he came up. So kind of glad to see that, It's not something that we get to pride ourselves on every day on the south side of town, a rookie that can come up and play, but been really happy to see it.
Well, it's not something anyone usually gets to brag about.
Yeah, exactly. A guy that comes up right away and plays high-level baseball, so very rare. So, Bergie, I wanted to get into my All-Star Game picks, and I'll give you the lineups, based on what was voted in by the fans. And then if you could, discuss whether or not you agree or disagree with guys getting in at what positions.
Okay.
Kevin, you can pull up some numbers on some of these guys.
Yeah,
and if you want to chime in as well. I think you can go to MLB.com to look up the
certified position.
There you go, man.
Well, I'm assuming you meant me, Benjamin, chiming in. Yes.
Yes, Derek. Chime in as much as you want.
Thank you.
Yes.
Appreciate the consideration.
Yes. Please include your input. It's welcomed.
You're dying for it, I know.
I am dying for it. So, gentlemen, we have in the American League going around the horn. First base. Or do you need me to explain around the horn, Derek?
For our viewers' sake, Benjamin.
Okay, around the horn.
Listeners, sorry for addressing you improperly.
That's okay, Derek. Around the horn means third to first. You go third base, shortstop, second base, first base.
What about the catcher?
That's part of the battery.
He starts it.
Catcher, pitcher. That's the battery.
It's like after a guy gets struck out, the catcher throws the ball to third base,
and then you start throwing it around the horn.
throw it around.
Yeah.
The horn.
Is that just to keep everyone awake? Because they're playing baseball and it's a very sleepy sport.
Yeah, keep your reflexes up. Stay hot, kid.
They might forget how to play while they're waiting.
Yes, they might forget how to play baseball while they're waiting for the strikeout to
Something I often think about.
Yes.
All right. Well, great. We've probed to a deeper level of comprehension.
Certainly.
Well, you have.
You have now.
Yeah. Okay. I have.
So,
Thank you.
gentlemen, let's go around the horn in the American League. Third base was the guy I was talking about earlier, Manny Machado from the Baltimore Orioles. At shortstop, you have the Boston Red Sox young phenom, Xander Bogaerts. The guy's played an incredible shortstop this year.
Young player.
Yeah, hitting over 300 too with power. Kind of reminds me of like Nomar or A-Rod when those guys were young, and Miguel Tejada type guy. Second base, Altuve. Jose Altuve. He's had
definitely
had a great year for the Astros.
Got him on my fantasy team.
They're actually chanting MVP. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you're hearing another voice on the podcast this evening, that other voice is Chris Salverson. He has joined us in studio.
How's it going, everybody?
He just got back from playing some hockey, and now he's ready to talk some baseball.
I'm pretty tired.
Fair enough, dude. Fair enough. All right, so back to our conversation that Bergie and I were having, and Chris, you can jump in on this as well. Kevin's got some numbers pulled up. We're all kind of going through this, through the statistics for these guys. We're talking about how the all-star lineups were voted on by the fans and which guys probably should have made it instead. So we actually just started this conversation. We're starting with the American League, and in the American League in the infield, it's Manny Machado at third, Xander Bogaerts from the Red Sox at short, Jose Altuve from the Astros at second, and Eric Hosmer from the Royals at first base. Starting catcher for the American League is Salvador Perez, also from the Royals, and their outfield is Jackie Bradley Jr., Mookie Betts, and Mike Trout.
Wow.
What do you guys... Oh, and then Big Papi,
Mike
David
Trout,
Ortiz.
are you sure?
Uh-huh.
Mr. Trout has a cool name.
Yeah, Mike Trout.
I like
he's a
him.
pretty decent
Yeah,
player.
I don't know.
He's okay.
He's a pretty decent
So
player.
if you're named after
Too
a
easy.
fish that's existed for hundreds of thousands of years, that's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. Yeah.
That's very steadfast. Like you can rely on a man named Mike Trout.
You certainly can. Very
what I'm
straightforward
saying.
name. Yeah.
Indeed. Yes.
So is Josh Donaldson hurt or something?
Well, Machado has put up ridiculous numbers this year. He's hitting 340 with how many homers and how many RBIs? And,
is he
and the
eligible to
defense.
play shortstop?
That's the thing, right? Because he played short most of the year too. So that might be one you want to look up. I want to say
He's got good numbers, but Donaldson's look even better. The one thing to consider about Donaldson
is the defense.
Yeah, I think his park is a little bit harder to hit in than the Orioles.
Certainly.
That's part of it. So
That
if
is
you
a-
adjust the numbers, it's probably a little bit more even.
That's a good point. I mean, if
Donaldson has the OBP advantage too, so I don't know. He's
does he really?
Yeah.
Okay. That's an interesting comparison. I mean, Josh Donaldson's kind of gotten lost in the shuffle this year. I think it was because he got off to a little bit of a slow start, and the Jays as a team got off to a slow start.
Oh yeah.
But
And
he's still
Batista got
difference, I
racked.
Yeah, the
Yes.
Orioles are in first, aren't they?
Yeah, the Orioles are in first place. Their fans have probably come out to vote a little bit more.
It is the fans.
That being said, though, the Jays do have... they voted in Michael Saunders in the last man vote because they've got the entire country of Canada voting for their players. So, needless to say, it should be easier for them to vote a guy like Donaldson in. But I think Machado, the impact that he's had on that lineup, hitting towards the top of the order and playing stellar defense at two premium defensive positions, short and third, I think that's all pretty impressive. I'm curious to see what you guys think about the outfield. I think that... Is there anybody in the outfield that you think would be more deserving than, say, Jackie Bradley Jr.? I think Mookie Betts has had a great year, and Trout is obviously Trout.
I'd have to look it up.
Because I know that I had looked up a couple of names that that popped into my head. I know that, obviously, being a homer, I know that Adam Eaton had a really high wins above replacement and great defensive ratings. That was one of the guys that I had looked up. Kevin, can you look up some individual numbers of American League outfielders? I know there's some filter options on the MLB.com website. Or
Yeah,
I see that Chris is on. Are you on Fangraphs, Chris?
Yeah. It seems to like Ian Desmond a lot. I don't know.
Yeah, that was the guy that I was thinking of, is Ian Desmond. He's played great defense.
That's what it looks like. They
Yeah.
really like his defense.
Because he actually moved to
also
center for a little bit.
Your
And
boy Adam Eaton.
yeah. Eaton playing right field makes a lot more sense because of his arm.
Sure.
And he just gets better reads in right. But they actually moved Desmond to center, and he's played really, really well in center. His arm really profiles well in center field. He's got good range as a former shortstop too.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised by that at all. Bergie, any thoughts?
Yeah, I don't really have anything to add on this. I don't know. It kind of seems like the American League outfielders haven't truly jumped off the page as much this year as in past years. You had like 3, easy no-brainers, but you know it's kind of up for grabs this year. Everyone's doing all right, but not maybe outstanding. So
yeah, absolutely, I agree with that. So we could go ahead and I actually written that down in a note that I'd probably pick, other than I think the majority of the lineup is pretty good, but the guy that I was going to go with was Desmond over Bradley Jr. So moving on to the National League, I have a couple recommendations, and then I have to add on 2 more guys because 2 more guys got pulled out. So in the National League around the horn, third to first, it goes Chris Bryant from the Cubs, who's having a monster season. 25 homers, 65 RBIs, something like that, hitting around 290, and playing solid defense wherever Joe Madden puts him. He's having a great year, and he's right there in the MVP conversation with Kershaw, in my opinion. Shortstop, fellow Cub, Addison Russell, second-year player. Second base, another Cub, Ben Zobrist. And first base, you can guess it, another Cub, Anthony Rizzo, who I really think deserves to be there because he's had a great first half too. The outfield, catcher, we'll go with catcher as well, and that's Buster Posey from the Giants. I mean, the guy's already been in the All-Star game a bunch, and he's having another really good year, so it's not a surprise there. And then their outfield is Bryce Harper from the Nats, Yoenis Cespedes from the Mets, and Dexter Fowler from the Cubs. So the Cubs have 5 starters in the game, and who knows who's going to pitch? It may be Jake Arrieta for all we know. So the 2 recommendations that I had in the infield, I went with Corey Seager over Addison Russell because of his offense, and he's played just as good a defense in my opinion. And then I went with Daniel Murphy over Ben Zobrist because Daniel Murphy's hitting a ton for a second baseman.
Yep.
The outfield we have to add 2 because Dexter Fowler and Yoenis Cespedes are both hurt. Yep. They're both on the disabled list. So if you guys can think of 2 outfielders that should make the National League starting lineup over Fowler and Cespedes, leaving Harper out there, obviously.
Yeah, Harper's obviously got to make it.
Yeah.
He's so good.
For sure. Yeah, you have to keep Bryce Harper out there, being one of the top 2-3 guys in the game. So
yeah. Well, I mean, they got Chris Bryant, obviously. That was right, I think.
Yeah,
they
so
got that one right. Harper. Fowler's not a bad pick. He's right there.
No, he's played well, but the injury kind of...
Marcell Ozuna.
Oh, yeah, from the Marlins. Yeah, he's had a good year. Yeah, bounce back year. He got off to a slow start, but he's had a bounce back year.
Yeah, it doesn't look like the fans totally messed this one up or anything.
No, I don't think they did. I think that Cespedes would deserve it if he was healthy, I
mean, you could probably throw Jay Bruce out there. He's leading the National League outfielders and RBIs at the point. He's only batting .267, but
right. If he's getting on base and not striking out too much, it's not bad. I can't really think of anybody.
On base percentage over 300.
Well, Starlin Marte from the Pirates is a good player. He's a very good defensive player. I know that he rates well in Fangraphs in terms of like UZR and defensive runs saved. Those are a couple statistics that he does well in. And he's also a really solid offensive player. I think they usually hit him about second. He's a good on-base guy, and he can hit for a little bit of power. He plays left field, but if McCutchen wasn't playing center, he'd probably be the center fielder on the Pirates. So I think that would be a guy I'd look at, especially considering that McCutchen somehow didn't make the team this year. So
he's kind of had a down year.
He had,
in spite of his in his standards. But.
Yeah, by his standards, he got off to a slow start. So Marte made it instead, and I think Marte would be a guy that I would consider as a starting outfielder for the National League as well. What do you guys think of my Seager over Russell and Murphy over Zobrist up the middle?
I guess I don't know what Zobrist's numbers are and how they compare, but
so he had a monster month of May. He's hitting about 285 right now with 12 or 13 homers. He's got about 45 knocked in. Very good on-base guy. Usually rates pretty well defensively. Can play a number of different positions, but on the Cubs, they really only need him to play second base.
Mm-hmm.
So, Chris, thoughts?
So they like second baseman
Yep.
that we're talking.
Yeah, we're talking about second base. And
Yeah, so Altuve, I mean, it looks like he's having a really good season. Murphy, those are the starters, right?
Yeah, we're talking.
Zobrist is starting in the NL, but I picked Murphy over him.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
I feel like, Murphy's probably more deserving. Robbie Cano is actually bouncing back, it looks like.
He's had a big year.
Yeah.
He made the team. I actually went slightly with Altuve over Cano, but
Yeah, that seems to be what people think as well.
yeah.
Matt Carpenter looks to be pretty good, but
I think he
I don't
got
like
hurt.
the Cardinals, so whatever.
The bias kicking in there.
That's not fair.
The anti-Cardinal bias kicking in. I feel like the only people that like the Cardinals are Cardinal fans. They're one of the most disliked teams in baseball, regardless of fan affiliation.
I mean, they're such a fun team to root for.
Right? They got the best fans in baseball.
What do you think of Trevor Story?
He's had a great year.
He's lit the league on fire.
He's got, 22 home runs at the break as a shortstop?
He's a great story.
There you go, Kevin. Dude, gotta
I'll put
add
in-
that one in there.
Or
Yeah.
some cricket noises, maybe.
Or some cricket noises.
There you go.
Either way, yeah.
Maybe both.
Maybe both, yeah.
I think that's it, yeah.
Yeah, Trevor Story, he's had a great first half. So is Nolan Arenado. That left side in Colorado, those guys hit a ton. And they're decent defensively. Arenado's a great defensive third baseman. Story, I think he's about league average defensively, but
Yeah,
his
he's-
offense has been
But
through the roof.
that bat's been nuts.
Yep. So, well, I think that's really what I was looking at in terms of both the American League and National League lineups. On the whole, I think the fans got the votes right. Jackie Bradley Jr. had that monster hitting streak in the middle of June. And I think that's why he got voted in by Red Sox fans. It wasn't until kind of later in the right before the break that it was really established that there might be some better options out there. A guy like Ian Desmond, who has been consistent throughout, but hasn't really jumped off the page in either offense or defense. But he's one
But
of
he's
the.
been consistently playing at a high level.
He's been playing at a high level. He's been playing for a good team. He's a big reason why the team's in first place. And the analytics have kind of honored the way he's played, which is fair to him. So that's why I went with Desmond over Bradley. And I think that Murphy, because he's just murdered the ball in the first half,
so.
you got to pick him over Zobrist. And the same thing with Corey Seager at short. Corey Seager, Story got off to that ridiculous start where he hit 5 home runs in the first week.
Yeah.
It was Willie Mays, Mark McGwire type stuff. Actually,
You might see some regression.
yeah, a little bit of regression there, especially with a 23-year-old shortstop. That's not going to be something that he's going to be able to keep up. But Seager was consistent throughout, playing good defense, getting on base a ton, hitting leadoff for the Dodgers. He's been a spark plug at the top of their lineup all year, so felt like he was the guy to vote for, even over Brandon Crawford. The NL West is stacked with great shortstops. Can't really go wrong with Seager, Crawford, or Story, but I felt like Seager was the best of the three. And then finally, before we get into kind of an open question session to close things out, who do you guys think should start on the mound for both teams in the All-Star game for both leagues?
One of the closers.
Yes, one of the closers,
Yeah, why not mix it up a little
Andrew
bit?
Miller, man.
Yeah.
Andrew Miller from the Yankees, or maybe Chapman.
Keep them out of their element,
Yeah, right. Well, I think Chapman's not going to pitch. I think it's Betances that got the invite. I know 2 out of 3 of those.
Kershaw's just unbelievably good.
Yeah, Kershaw's had an amazing first half. It's a damn shame that he's on the DL.
Yeah.
But he was the obvious pick for the National League until he got hurt.
Yeah.
And then Bumgarner pitched today, so he's out of the question. Danny Salazar for the American League is out because he pitched today as well. So I think it's probably
Kluber?
he got the last second invite, and he's been good, but probably not deserving of it this year.
Okay.
I think it's probably going to be Sale.
Hey,
For the
all the power to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd give him the ball.
Yeah, I think it's probably going to end up being Sale.
Agreed.
Thank you, Derek.
What you agree with something about Tinder? Because that's what you've been doing for like the last 10 minutes.
Ouch!
Ooh, called out.
So yeah, I think it's going to be Sale in the American League, and then maybe in the National League. Chris, what do you think? Have you looked into that
it's
yet?
difficult to come up with
Well, looks
conversation.
like the next runner-up to Kershaw would be Thor.
Yeah,
Requires
but he got hurt too, didn't he? On Saturday, I think he got hurt.
I have no idea who's hurt. And who's
Yeah, I think Syndergaard got hurt on Saturday against
what
the
about
Nationals.
Jose Fernandez? Is he hurt yet?
No, I think he'll be eligible. That'd
No,
be
he got hurt like pretty bad a year ago, didn't he?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Pretty sure my vote is for Bartolo Colon.
he made the
Well,
team.
yeah,
He made the team.
the greatest player of all time.
Absolutely.
Definitely
It's true.
So Thor, yeah, okay.
best
here-
looking baseball player of all time.
of
as well.
course, yes.
Aspire to be like him.
When I grow up, I want to be just like Bartolo Colon.
He's like a
Sexy.
human Cookie Monster.
The big sexy, yes. Yeah, so they said that Noah Syndergaard has arm fatigue and he's going to miss the All-Star game. So we're probably looking at Jose Fernandez.
All right.
Chris Sale against Jose Fernandez. I'm down with that. That works for me. I think Jake Arrieta kind of pushed himself out of the conversation with a rough June.
Yeah, he definitely picked the wrong time to go in a little slump there. So.
Yeah, for sure. But that being said, the Cubs do have 5 guys that got voted into the starting lineup, so really nothing to complain about there. They also have 2 starters, Arrieta and Lester, that are going to be available to pitch on Tuesday night in San Diego. Yeah, I mean, this is mostly for the fans, but it's always an interesting conversation to have to talk about, you know, which guys deserve to go and who's had the good first halves compared to their contemporaries at their positions. So kind of wanted to open things up, guys, as we wind things down tonight to keep Derek awake.
I have a popcorn topic, if you don't mind. And this pertains to baseball.
Certainly.
You would be most pleased to know.
Okay.
My question is, what happened to Moneyball?
What happened to Moneyball? Well, we have the gentleman in the room that's kind of
Like the movie or the concept?
a follower of
The
analytics.
concept.
Oh,
what
wow.
happened to Moneyball? What's his What's his limitations? When does it work? When does it not? Why is it not? Widespreadly? That's not very good English, but
You want
I'm
us to
British, so it
kinda
doesn't matter.
You want us to
You gotta have
discuss-
like the young talent, like on cost-controlled contracts. And if you just draft really terribly, or you just
you don't have
make-
good scouting, yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean they got some guys that are like, you know, like the A's have some guys that are coming up, but I mean, I think with Moneyball, it's like you're gonna be good certain years, and then other years you're just gonna be in like this redeveloping cycle.
So it's like you just write out the statistics, and it's like sometimes they benefit you and sometimes they don't. It's like, yeah.
Well, Moneyball, like the money's like,
But the point is
just
you're not-
stacked against you to begin with. Obviously, like if you have 60 million and like the Tigers
Salary
have
cap.
3 times that, like
Yeah.
they
You can't
spend
do
like
so
half of
much.
it on their pitching staff. Like,
Yeah.
So it's
You're
more
gonna
like a
struggle.
method of efficiency, right? Like,
Yeah, exactly. It's
yeah.
It's
if, you're
using your
if
resources.
your ceiling is only so high, then there's like not much you can do.
yeah.
Right, like yeah, it just depends. Like you have to have like
What's
the right like talent in your system, like young guys, like just so you can like afford to have a good team, and then like you can make some savvy like moves on top of that for kind of like cheaper, cost controlled guys who are like role players. And the other thing they do too is like you know, they just kind of gamble on certain things, and then they all just like, you know, just trying to get a bunch of power hitters who like can't play defense and stuff like that. Just trying to find market inefficiencies.
Yep.
Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, it's primarily the system that, I mean, they referred to it as Moneyball, just from an analytics perspective. First off, every team in baseball has an analytics department.
Of course, it's like the most fundamental.
you can't
Baseball is like a statistical game.
Yes, exactly. It's the largest sample size. of any
Exactly,
sport.
because you play like every
Do the
fucking
Twins
day.
actually have
Well,
analytics?
it's
I
don't
do
think so.
I would think the Twins would have.
I
One.
mean, I'm
Even-
sure they do, but
Twins can't
obviously
count
they
on
don't
it.
have good people in that
I
department.
think like every team says they use analytics, but it's more a matter of like what exactly.
I don't
they're
know
What
if
it
looking at.
Terry
exactly
Ryan.
constitutes.
I don't know if
Yeah.
anyone's actually explained to Terry Ryan what they are.
what analytics
No.
are. Yeah, I think the big thing with analytics is this: like like Chris was saying earlier, it's really comes down to scouting and player development at the minor league level, being able to bring up the talent around the roster to fill it out.
Or you just be the Dodgers.
Yeah, right. Just sign every
like $2 billion budget every
year. Have a $2 billion budget and just go crazy in the international free agency signings. I think the big thing with not just with player development and talent evaluation and things like that, but like Chris said with the cost control, basically what that means is you bring a guy up when he's 22, 23 years old. He proves that he can play. And then you sign him to a club-friendly contract early on in the process. You try to, replicate that with a number of guys, and then that's how you build your
club-friendly contract.
A club-friendly contract would be
short-term?
It would actually be. It might be long-term, but it's just the money is lower because the guy's younger.
You hedge your bet.
Exactly.
You take the long.
It's what a lot of teams. It really
you can't make a certain amount for a while too.
Exactly.
Those rookie years, you can only make so much.
Yeah,
it's just kind of like the league's rules.
Yeah. So I mean, you have that. You have those arbitration rules in place where you can only make a certain amount of money. But if you really feel like a guy is a special player, you can sign him to a contract after that second or third year, around that, and sign him to a 6 or 7 year contract. So he'll be a free agent after his 8th year with the club instead of his 5th or 6th year.
Mm-hmm.
So then, ideally, you'll have him under contract until he's 30, 31 years old. And as Chris knows, Bergie, you know this as well,
the decline
when
begins.
you get into your early 30s, you start declining like crazy as a ball player. You lose your velocity on the mound. You lose your bat speed at the plate. You lose your range in the field.
Plus, you already have fucking... I'm sorry for breaking character. You'll have a child, you have friends and shit.
This is true.
Life.
You're off the field.
You've already lived somewhere for 8 years. You it's about I live here. This is my home.
Yeah, exactly. That is part of it too. It takes on the off the field stuff becomes more of an issue. But I do think that's one of the big elements of how Moneyball, quote unquote, works, is that if you're working with a restricted budget, you have to invest it in young talent at an early stage. And then, like Chris said, looking into role players who may have been overlooked for one reason or another with other clubs, but from an analytics perspective, they provide something that can be a boost to a ball club. Let's say a guy, like you're saying, the guy is not a good defensive player, but he has really high OBP, especially maybe a high OBP in the American League, but he was a National League guy, as opposed, looking at the matchups and whatnot. I think if you're what comes into play in that regard is advanced scouting. Advanced scouting becomes really important. In other words, when your pro scouts go out and look at other teams, at free agents, they have to be able to project based on the eye test and based on what your analytics department is saying about a player over a 2 to 3 year span, or however long you're looking to sign the guy for. Those guys in the advanced scouting department become very important too.
So it's not a perfect formula. It depends on some human qualities that make it work. That's the reason why it's not everyone's not oh gee, I need to fucking check my analytics every day and this is how I need to govern my life.
Well, that's why some teams make bad decisions and others don't.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean,
that goes with any sport.
Analytics are a great basis to be able to make those decisions,
or any business.
I mean, you're looking at a bunch of different elements involved in decision making regarding personnel, but any organization at this point in time that doesn't incorporate analytics to make those decisions, whether you're talking about a guy coming up through your system or a free agent or a trade, if you're not using that, then you're really behind the 8 ball.
It's just ignorance, because it's just a quantitative connection between things that actually have a relationship.
Yeah.
It's do I want to understand something or do I not? Oh, no, I don't, so I'm going to ignore
right, exactly.
all these things that tell me how to understand it.
And I'd also like to point out that the history of Moneyball and analytics doesn't start with the A's. I actually read an interesting tidbit.
What? Enlighten us, please.
So I read something really interesting online the other day. I actually Googled the history of baseball advanced analytics. and it started with IBM working with the Baltimore Orioles in the early 1970s. Little known fact, Davey Johnson, who has been a manager for a number of different teams in recent years, when he was playing for the Orioles in the early 70s, he was playing for Earl Weaver, the Hall of Fame manager with the O's. He wanted to get moved up in the batting order, so he went to IBM and asked them to devise a system that would prove that, like, from an advanced statistics standpoint, if he hit higher in the order, it would improve the team's chances of winning. And they devised some sort of formula with IBM.
Sounds like a cigarette company trying to get some scientists to do some studies. Like, no, they're not bad for you.
Exactly. It actually worked out.
I want you to arrive at this result, please.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't care what your study is. Just make sure they know I'm good.
Right. Yeah.
However you got to do it.
Those kids, they need more cigarettes.
They funded quite a bit of research, actually. Like,
IBM's been ahead of the curve on a number of different things, but that was they were very much at the forefront of. This is pre-Bill James's book. Okay, this is actually before Bill James wrote his famous book. They got this all going. That's really like the start of the modern day analytics as people know it, because Bill James and his writing were a heavy influence on what Billy Beane has done in Oakland. But it actually started with the Orioles in the early 70s working with IBM, because Davey Johnson proved it to Earl Weaver, and then he was like hitting leadoff or hitting second, and then their offense took off as a team. So Earl Weaver bought into it, and then Earl Weaver started using it more.
So maybe like Watson should just be hired as like the GM for like all these teams, right?
That'd be very interesting if
make a very non-partial decision
right.
on things. He'd just be like, "This is the way it needs to be based on the analytics," and maybe that'd be better off.
There you go. That might be a way to do it.
Take the human quality out of it.
This Davey Johnson guy might be a better politician than baseball player. He seems to just get what he wants.
Well, that's why he became a manager all those years, is that he was able to talk to people.
Probably do okay in games.
He's good at bullshitting people.
Yeah, exactly.
And he'll go to IBM and actually walk in the front door and say, "Hey, listen, I need you guys to help me
prove that I should hit second in
the order." Like, what the fuck is that? Like, who at IBM was like, okay,
yeah, let's do it. It's an interesting.
How
much money do you have,
analytics,
mate?
but they also used them wrong. So.
Actually, that was probably when they were trying to like figure out what the hell they could use computers for. They're like, what the hell are we gonna use this fucking piece of shit for? And then they're like, someone wants to use it. Okay,
does 1 million computations at once.
Yeah, right.
You just need to do important ones.
Yeah, exactly.
And we need a 20,000 square foot warehouse.
If someone's willing to pay you a couple $100,000, then that becomes the most important thing that you're willing to crunch.
There you go.
Exactly.
It's true. Sell out. That's the lesson of today's podcast.
Yeah. All right, guys. Any other questions here in the forum?
Who do you think's going to win the home run derby?
Oh, gee, what point?
Who's still taking steroids?
Sammy Sosa, is he still
I picked that
alive?
guy.
Sammy Sosa is alive, and he's white now.
I saw Sammy Sosa in the home run derby.
Have we accepted him?
Well, he's like got the Michael Jackson thing going on, unfortunately, where he like dyed his skin and all that. Whatever he did, the skin bleach or whatever. Kevin, if you look up, Google Sammy Sosa like present.
I don't know. This might scare me.
Current day Sammy Sosa. But Bergie, to answer your question, why not go with Todd
Sammy
Frazier?
Sosa skin?
I'm going to go with Todd Father, our White Sox third baseman.
I would expect nothing less from you.
Thank you.
He looks
25 bombs, 57 ribbies, and now Kevin and Ducky or Kevin and Derek are looking at.
He looks like he's dead.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Right?
Sorry, I can't speak.
He just looks like all the life, like.
Hey, what the fuck?
Yeah,
That's not the same person.
That is 100% the same person.
It's definitely the same person.
Yeah. No, that's he did that a few years back, and it freaked everybody out.
He did that. I'm sorry.
He I don't really know the origin of the situation, but I do know that this skin bleaching thing happened with Slam and Sammy. Yeah.
It was an intentional.
It was an intentional act. So, Bergie, to answer your question, yes, I'm going to go ahead and say that I want Todd Frazier to win it, so why not pick him?
All right. I'm going to go with Giancarlo Stanton.
He's in it this year?
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. I mean, I enjoy watching him hit home runs very much. He can hit the ball a long way.
He can hit it pretty far.
Like William Opeña.
Yeah, he's William Opeña, but like even more fun to watch.
But he can actually play baseball.
Yeah, he can actually play baseball for real. William Opeña. Wow. I haven't heard that name in a while. Any other questions from you guys? I know that Derek and Bergie have gone so far. Chris, you got any questions you want to pop off to me? Or I got one for you, actually.
Oh, yeah?
Josh Reddick trade rumor that I was talking to Bergie about. Do you do it before the deadline? And if so, do you have any idea of what you would ask in return if you're Billy Beane?
Well, they need like futures, I think. Like they're not competitive right now, clearly.
Oh, yeah.
He never like fully believes in full rebuilds, which is fine because usually with him, like he can build teams on the fly pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But yeah, probably you'd need like some futures, especially if you can get like good like infield position players or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be huge.
Like the Samardzija for Marcus Semien heist of 2014.
Yeah, that was one where I mean I think he's done really good on like that one, and then like Jerry's still out on that Donaldson trade, obviously.
Yeah, because
Donaldson was like clearly the best player in that trade. Brett Laurie was not. But they do. I think there's that one position player like in the minors right now who's supposed to be good. So we'll see about him.
Well, plus if JB Wendelken, the pitcher that you guys got from the White Sox for Laurie, ends up working out, that could still be a good trade in terms of the down the road product that you guys got, because Laurie was obviously in the returns for Donaldson, and if he produces something that's better than him, then it could still work out.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, like right now the team isn't competitive really.
Sure.
And I'm guessing Reddick's getting closer to that point where they're actually gonna have to pay for him.
Yep.
And
he's a free agent at the end of the year.
Okay, yeah. So then, you kind of have to trade him,
right?
Especially with their budget.
Yeah.
That was like when they got Cespedes, like cheap off of like the international thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was pretty cool, and like that. I don't know. It just sort of saved some money long term. But now, like when the Mets like paid him, they like totally overpaid him, and it's like you just gotta know when to like when people's best years are behind them and stuff.
Exactly. That's very true. You have to be able to project that down the road. That's another big part of analytics, another big part of talent evaluation is to be able to project the contracts versus the value in the ensuing years. So.
Right, because your prime is somewhere around age 26. Like for baseball players, it might be a little later, maybe like 28.
I was going to say
about the time you hit free agency.
26 to 29. Yeah, 26 to 29. That's a 3-year window.
Yeah,
where guys are at their elite level. Yeah. So, any questions on your end to me? Or
I can't think of any right now.
Cool, man. Well, I think that's going to wrap it up for this evening, guys. Again, I'd like to thank all my guests in studio tonight. Chris Alverson for stopping by after playing hockey. And my fraternity brother, Matthew Bergstrom, for coming on for the first time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
For sure, man. Derek Dahl, always a pleasure.
Yes, it is.
Indeed. Pleasure's all mine. And my executive producer, Kevin McGrath, thank you once again, man.
My pleasure.
Yeah. Your hard work has truly paid off, and it's made the listening experience for all of our listeners much more enjoyable.
Yes, this will have been a heavily edited episode for those listening still.
Most certainly. I could not agree more. Once again, guys, thank you for being in studio, and we'll come back with another episode within the next week or so, starting with the second half of the season coming up. I hope all you fans out there enjoy the All-Star festivities this week. And from Minneapolis, Minnesota, we are signing off. This is Ben Jax saying goodnight.